Hello, excuse me. Um, so GitHub Copilot, been quite a few advancements in it recently, so that's a good thing as it tries to, I would say, catch up to a lot of the other um, things that are out there. Uh, uh, I had mentioned this in a previous video. I've been doing a lot of Aspire stuff, and for those that haven't seen this, um, the Aspire team added GitHub Copilot up here and allowed you to be able to chat with your development environment. If you put stuff in Aspire, they just kind of embed it into the top right-hand corner, which is really cool. You start asking it questions about, like this log or why did this error happen at any point in time. It has little context menus of asking GitHub Copilot. Maybe you're in the structured logs. Also can ask GitHub Copilot about it, or the traces of how things look. Ask GitHub Copilot about it, or metrics. Uh, Anyways, that was not the point of this video. Actually, I don't know if this one has GitHub Copilot. This one doesn't. Sorry, so my bad. Anyways, regardless, so then I was like, well, that's pretty cool, right? Having GitHub Copilot integrated in with the application. And now I don't officially know how they implemented that, although it's really, really neat. I've been using it quite a bit, so that's really great. But just to step back for a second, you as a developer, there's also this thing called GitHub Copilot CLI. So this is, your chat window on your right-hand side when you're in VS Code or in Visual Studio. You can also have that at the command line. So, if I'm over here in my VS Code window, actually, I'll just start up a new one. I meant to do this. And I'll just get out of my virtual environment here, and I just say Copilot, or is it logo? It doesn't really matter. Anyways, if I just bring up Copilot, it'll actually spin up Copilot within this terminal window, and then you can just interact with it, right? And so it's just like any other of those examples that you've seen out there. Work with this code base, ask just general questions. I could ask questions about my computer, like what user processes running on my computer. And then you could even actually kill those processes too, if you wanted to, using the prompt as well. So very, very powerful. So I'll say yes to that. Just run some PowerShell, it looks like, for get process. Tells me things are going. Kill the notepad process. And it's thinking about that. And I'll say yes. I'll say yeah. And my notepad should go away. Yeah, there it went away. So anyway, so that's just the GitHub Copilot CLI. So that's all interesting if you're more of a command prompt type of person. There you go. And now, just recently, they also reduced the Copilot SDK, and this builds on top of the CLI. And so what's this about? So this is, now you could be writing code that your own application code that uses the SDK, which in turn uses the CLI. So there's a little, I don't know if they have it here. No, I put it over here in my in my README here, and it's like, you create an application that uses this new SDK client. It uses JSON RPC to talk to that Copilot CLI. That's a thing that I just used right now. So, okay, so what does that mean, Derek? So let's take a look at. I just used some of the demos that they published. Again, I'll deactivate this environment. It keeps on going into it, and I created. A hello world, and this is the one that you'll see a lot on the internet right now because it's the common example they give, where you just new up this Copilot client, you start it up, create a session, send it a prompt, wait for it to respond. Okay, so I'll just say maybe run this one, and as you can expect, this should tell me the answer is 4, and it does. It says 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, so that's not that terribly interesting. You can do other things. It supports the pedantic classes. So here's a class that's this replace config class. So I really don't. I'm really not a fan of this sort of concept of these strings that are important keys. So I much prefer this approach of using their configuration. And so I'm saying, okay, here's a system prompt. The mode is, here's my system message where you're a jokester, dad style jokes. I did this with the Microsoft Agent Framework, if you remember, in the Google ADK. Here's the session config. Again, I'm going to use GPT-4.1. As you give me the response, stream it back to me. Here's your system message. Create the session. There's some code here that, um, you know, when I send and wait it, there's some code up above that handles the event when it's working. As you're getting information back, this assistant message delta, basically getting the answer back. So if I run this code, stating the obvious, it'll just tell me a dad joke. Okay. All right. So again, it starts to feel a little bit fuzzy of like when you use Microsoft Agent Framework versus this. Although I think I have an opinion about that in a little bit. It also supports custom tools. And again, if you kind of think about it, it's like anything that GitHub Copilot on the right hand side, in your VS Code or Visual Studio and what it can do, and now the the GitHub Copilot CLI, which is it'll do the same things. This too can have use custom tools. So you just create tools, you define it as a tool. This is again one of their samples. It's going to call a weather tool, so it starts it up. You're given a tool. Again, this is their code, GitHub's code. I would prefer to use a config class here. I just didn't update it. And here's a list of tools. And so I could run this one. So similarly, of course, it should just work. And so pretend that did a web API call to get some weather. In this case, it just give me some random weather for whatever cities I pass in. And so it says, yes, Seattle is this, Tokyo is this. Okay, kind of interesting. Similarly, it can be interactive. So this one here, this weather assistant example that they created, the GitHub Copilot SDK team created, it's like, okay, you can interact with it. So, get the input, get into the user input, and then send and await that input. Really, it's just a loop of what you've seen before, and it uses tooling, which you saw before. So I say, compare weather in New York City and LA, just the example that they gave here, and it'll just do some tool calling. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's keep going. So, it can also use skills. So, remember before there, I had created some skills, these hello C# JavaScript Python hello world. And then in another video there, I did a web design skills and a custom skill. Well, you can load all those up here as well. So it's just like, yeah, create a session. There's my skill directory. You can list which skills you want to disable if you don't want to load them all up. Create the session. And in this case, I'm just saying hello Python. So let's just run this. And so this was the 5 demo. And this will just run. Now I don't have anything tagged so that it will interact with the user saying, are you sure you want to run it? It'll just straight away run it. And there you go. I gave my system information. If you remember the previous video I had, just gives the system information. And this example here is the exact same thing, instead saying hello JavaScript, which in turn invokes the skill that is the hello JavaScript skill. I won't run it. It's just the same thing, but streaming. It also does sessions. So let's run this one. This is kind of interesting. So this one here, this again, you kind of have to go a bit into the code that they have out there in GitHub to find this example, and then adapt it. It doesn't quite work. I found out of the box, didn't do awaits, didn't do things asynchronously. So so what is this doing? So this does, again, new up that client, start it up, create some sort of session ID. Then I gave it a prompt. Again, this could have been a user interactive prompt. It just says, let's discuss TypeScript generics. Then it got rid of the session. And then it resumed the session. It says, what are we discussing? And if you see here, it says we were discussing generics. And just to kind of prove, actually, I realized I should have done something more like, let me get rid of this destroy. Yeah, this right here, this delete session permanently. I'll just get rid of that for a second. I'll save that. I'll run it one more time just to kind of prove my point. That's the persistent sessions. Again, it says it's talking about TypeScript generics, saying, do you remember what we're saying? Okay, fine. So I'll clear that out. And this time I will reintroduce, I'll just get rid of this delete session again, and I'll resume the session here. Instead, I won't create a session. So I'll get rid of all this. Okay, oops, Control Z. Let's try that again. Here, there we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to say, here's a session, resume it. Okay, so I'm in a brand new, I've cleared out my terminal. In fact, I can just create a new terminal to deactivate that. And I'll just say UV run that persistent session, and it'll still remember that we were talking about, I resume that conversation, we're discussing TypeScript. So that's all kind of interesting. It also can use MCP servers. It has an MCP server configuration. So just in general, everything that the GitHub Copilot chat on the right-hand side, you can now programmatically do all of that as well. Now, it did get me to thinking about, like, where does this fit? Now, it does use your local command line interface login. So I think this is more like, you're doing some individual, or maybe you're, commit this code to a source repository, and your other team members can make use of the tooling as well. And that tooling uses the SDK, which in turn calls the CLI. But it's under your context. I don't think this is a scenario of deploying these onto servers. I could definitely be wrong about that, and if it certainly is, it does end up being that. It certainly makes things very interesting and complicated, I suppose, of where Microsoft Agent Framework, for example, fits in if they start to become competing. But I see this more as, you're going to write applications for yourself or for your team members that are running under your context on your machine, doing things. It uses your, like I said, your Copilot CLI. You have to log in first before you can use this SDK. So I think that's its sweet spot, but it's really easy to work with. So yeah, hopefully that made sense for everybody.